What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Cosmic Wonder. We just got the full official trailer for Superman. I personally really loved it, and now I am even more excited for this film to come out in a couple of months, but go ahead and let me know your thoughts about it in the comments down below. We also recently heard some reports that some people saw another test screening of Superman very recently, and that the people who saw it were very impressed. So everything is seemingly on track for this movie to be a great film. Now, the trailer opens up with a shot of Metropolis. We then enter an apartment where we see Lois Lane with Clark Kent, or Kal-El, aka Superman, and this does appear to be the apartment of Lois. You can take a look on the right of Superman in this shot right here. We can actually see a picture frame, and inside of it says Lois in it. We know that the two of them are indeed going to be together in this movie, and she obviously knows that he is Superman. And it seems like he is agreeing to let her interview him as Superman because they are together, not really knowing what he was truly going to get into, because as we see, she doesn't take it easy on him in the interview. Lois grabs her recorder, hits record, asks if he's ready, and Clark says, "Let's do it, Cronkite," referring to Walter Cronkite, one of the most famous American broadcast journalists ever. And during the 1960s and the 1970s, he was often cited as the most trusted man in America. So you could see how Lois Lane might want to be somewhat like Walter Cronkite. And maybe Clark as well, since he works at the Daily Bugle with Lois. But then they get into actual character. She addresses him as Superman, not as Clark, not as Kal-El, but as Superman, because that's who she's interviewing. He replies with Miss Lane, still pretty happy and giddy about the situation, but it takes a big turn as she starts to ask him some pretty hard questions, stating that he's recently been under a lot of fire, in which he says, yeah, a lot of fire. And we see shots of the public turning against him, throwing the cans at him. And what's really interesting about this scene is after seeing the whole entire trailer, you can tell that while he's walking through the crowd of people, his suit is charred, like it just got hit with flames. And this is seemingly from his battle with the kaiju. This implies that this could be happening right after that battle, in which you would think the people of Metropolis would be grateful that Superman was there to fight the kaiju. However, it seems like they're angry at him because it looks like a lot of the city gets destroyed, and perhaps the kaiju was there specifically for Superman, so Superman being there puts the city in jeopardy, which is why some of these people may not like him. This also could be from the war that he got involved in, and the people could be mad at him for interfering and getting America involved. And perhaps he took some fire from some heavy artillery like tanks, and that's why his suit seems charred. And this is going to be a big point of the movie. A lot of people are going to love him, but a lot of people aren't going to love him. Then Lois says the Secretary of Defense said that he's going to look into your actions, and this makes Superman laugh. And if you think about it, if you were Superman, who any human really couldn't do anything about, that would be rather funny as well. On top of that, Superman laughs because he says he stopped a war. He did what he believed was the right thing to do. However, Lois takes a very political approach to this, and she says, maybe you stopped a war, but Superman says, I did. And this has to do with another plot point that we've heard about the movie that states Superman is kind of a rookie-ish superhero. We know that there are obviously going to be other superheroes in the movie, some of which we see in this trailer: Guy Garner's Green Lantern, Hawgirl, Mr. Terrific. They are apparently more veteran heroes in this universe, and Superman is the rookie. And that kind of shows here. He's a superhero who doesn't really pay any mind to politics. He does what he thinks is good. And when he says, I stopped a war, they show an image of soldiers and convoys and tanks going up against what looks to be just normal civilians. We don't know the situation, but none of these civilians seem to be armed, and it looks like they are trying to run away from something. But then an army comes at them to prevent them from running away. This is seemingly the war that Superman gets involved with. Then Lois once again kind of mentions the rules of the world. She says you went into a different country illegally, which again, for Superman himself, that sounds pretty preposterous. He simply wants to go save people. That's all he is trying to do. And he starts to get frustrated, and he starts talking to her as Lois, his girlfriend, and says, this is how you're gonna be. And she tries to keep it professional, saying, I'm not the one being interviewed, Superman. Now, while she's saying all this, we see that Superman is getting detained. Now, when he's in handcuffs here, it seems to be Ultraman that is bringing him in. But if you look at Superman's suit, it's not dirty in the slightest. So this seems to be a voluntary surrender, something that we have seen from Superman before. Now, the reason people think that this this is Ultraman is because of that giant U on his chest. Now, of course, this is not going to be a true adaptation of Ultraman from the comics. In the comics, Ultraman is from a different universe and he is an evil counterpart to Superman, essentially. However, there is a really big difference that might play a big part in this movie. Unlike Superman, Kryptonite doesn't hurt Ultraman. Instead, it actually increases his power and gives him new ones. We've heard reports that in the Superman film, Ultraman is not going to be from another universe, but is actually going to be a clone of Superman. This hasn't been confirmed yet, but it is coming from a reliable source, insider Daniel RBK. And if he is a clone, perhaps it looks exactly like Superman / David Cornsweet, the actor playing him, which is why he is fully covered in all of the trailers. Perhaps when they finally rip that mask off, it'll look exactly like Superman. But according to the report, Lex Luthor is the one who cloned Superman and creates Ultraman. And on the right there, you can see the engineer, and on the left, you can see Rick Flag Sr., the father of Rick Flag Jr., who was killed by Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad. He was also just in the trailer for Peacemaker Season 2, and he was in Creature Commandos as well, so we can start to see the DC connected universe in action here. And he is a general in the United States Armed Forces, so that's why he's also taking Superman in here. We then have a scene where it looks like Ultraman is shoving Superman's face into the ground. Again, it looks like Superman is letting him do it. And you see how strong Superman and Ultraman are in this scene. Superman's durability with his head and Ultraman's power shoving it into the ground, and the ground breaks. Lex Luthor appears to be watching, and it looks like he is loving this if it is related to this other scene. We know that Lex hates Superman, and he probably did create Ultraman to kill him. Meanwhile, Superman is still getting very irritated with the interview. Again, he is an alien superhero, not really caring about the politics of the Earth, but Lois says, "Did you consult with the president?" He lets out a big sigh and says, "No." And Lois explains, "You seemingly acted as a representative of the United States in a war," but he gets up screaming, "I wasn't representing anybody except for me and doing good." A very Superman thing to say, and I love it. But Lois says, "I would question myself and consider the consequences," basically stating before you decide to go do good on your own, you have to think about what it means for the United States, what it means for other countries, what it means for global politics. But all Superman is thinking about is that people were going to die, and he wanted to do good and save them, so that's why he did what he did. Then we get a new fight scene that was revealed in the teaser for this trailer that they released yesterday, where we see the Hammer of Boravia. The Hammer of Boravia is a confirmed original character for this movie that James Gunn created. We actually don't know who the Hammer of Boravia is. All we know right now is that he has the ability to fly and shoot laser beams. The theories of who it could be range from it could actually be Lex Luthor inside of that suit. It's his war suit he creates to be able to fight Superman, or it's a suit for Ultraman to actually use, which would make sense because it can fly and shoot lasers. And it seems to be a formidable match for Superman. So does Ultraman in general in this trailer. Now, I love this scene where Superman is seemingly losing and he gets hit to the ground and everybody's there to watch him fall. And one of the citizens runs up to him yelling his name and helps him get up. This shows that contrast of people who hate him, but people who love him look up to him and look to him for safety. And I think it's just a really, honestly touching scene right here. I love to see this. And I bet you that helps power Superman as well, helping him not quit. Then we get a really crazy scene where Lex Luthor and the engineer go to Superman's fortress of Solitude. We formerly got a picture of Superman holding one of his automatons because they were hurt, and now we know the reason why and who is responsible for this. Now, in the comics, the engineer is Angie Spica, and she is the second person to take up the engineer mantle and be a member of the Authority. She has a liquid body that can change and transform because she has nanites in her bloodstream. So her body is basically nanotechnology and can change into what she imagines. And we see that portrayed here very well in this scene. She is the one that seemingly kills all of the automatons, but it looks like she kind of gets defeated by Krypto, Superman's super dog from Krypton. And we see him hit the engineer and she grabs her face. And if you freeze frame, you can actually see her holding her face and there's actually a chunk of it taken off. Now, again, she is made up of nanites, so she can pretty much just regrow that, but she does seem to be pretty taken aback about how strong Krypto is. Now, from here, we get a lot of really cool scenes and important scenes. We see Superman saving civilians from getting stepped on by the kaiju. We get another scene of Superman and Lois hugging each other with the giant eyeball villain in the background who might be Solaris. We see more of the battle here. We see that Guy Garner has created sort of a net with his ring and is pulling the villain away. We also get some footage of Ma and Pa Kent, Superman's Earth parents, and some handheld camera footage of him when he was a child. And we hear Pa talking to Clark saying, your choices, your actions, that's what makes you who you are. And side note, it seems like in this movie, for all of it, he's going to be alive unless they decide to kill him off. But it looks like James Gunn might have went with the choice of him not dying and actually being there for Superman. We get a really cool look at Mr. Terrific with his really awesome tech. And then we see Lex in the Fortress of Solitude saying that Superman is not a man, he's an it, showing us how much he hates Superman. And at some point in time, it looks like he does manage to capture Superman, and he puts him in a cell with Metamorpho, or Rex Mason, who has the ability to change his body into any element. And here is something that is very interesting and answers a pretty big question. If you take a look at Metamorpho's hand in this scene, it looks like he is actually changing into Kryptonite. And that is why Superman is able to be hurt in this scene where he's getting beat in the cell. It looks like that is what Metamorpho is going to do for Lex Luthor. He is going to create Kryptonite, which could answer the question that many people have been asking, where exactly is Lex going to get Kryptonite from? Well, if this scene is any indicator, it looks like he's getting it from Metamorpho. But what's interesting about this is it does seem like there are a lot of people captured here with Superman and Metamorpho. There's a lot of cell blocks there. So as far as why the other people are there, we are unsure at this point in time. We then hear Lex say he's somehow become the focal point for the world's conversation. Again, showing us his hatred and jealousy for Superman. We then get a pretty sick shot of Guy Gardner's Green Lantern, Hawgirl, and Mr. Terrific, and we are told that they might be the Justice Gang. There is some toy leaks that we have seen, and in some of the descriptions they have mentioned the Justice Gang. And we do know that Maxwell Lord, who is going to be played by Sean Gunn, James Gunn's brother, is going to be a factor in that as well, possibly the benefactor of it and the founder of it, as we have seen in the Peacemaker Season 2 trailer. There's also a scene with Superman laying in his childhood bed, Ma and Pa Kent there by his side, and if you take a look, it looks like on his face where we can see his veins, he's been poisoned. Now, of course, this is probably from Kryptonite. Lex Luthor gets into the Fortress of Solitude and finds out information about Superman and finds out that Kryptonite is the way to beat him, and it's also a way to empower Ultraman. So since he doesn't have the Fortress of Solitude anymore, or the automatons, because Lex breaks in with the engineered, he goes back home. We then have some awesome footage of Superman fighting the kaiju, and if you notice in the background on the giant screen, there's a news anchor on the screen, and this appears to be William Reeves, the son of Christopher Reeves, the iconic Superman. His son William did mention publicly already that he does have a cameo, a one-line cameo in Superman, and it looks like that is the cameo right there. And that's a nice touching moment. I'm glad James Gunn decided to do that. We then have another image of that war that is seemingly taking place that Superman gets involved with, and we see Guy Garner use some of his Green Lantern abilities. And it looks really great. We get another shot at Hawkgirl. And what's interesting is we get a scene of the Hammer of Boravia flying in the air way up high, and somebody in one of the skyscrapers is looking out the window taking a selfie with the Hammer of Boravia as he destroys another skyscraper near her. But we've actually heard that social media inside of this movie is going to play a decent sized role, and Lex Luthor is going to try to use social media to get more people to hate Superman. And I do like that the trailer kind of ends with Superman jumping back into the sky, and the civilians are screaming for him, they're smiling, they have their phones out because they're happy to see Superman. So it starts with him kind of getting hate, but the trailer ends with him being loved and adored. But in reality, the trailer fully ends with Krypto being on top of Superman. And that is the Superman trailer. Go ahead, please let me know your thoughts about this in the comments down below. Do you think it looks good? Are you excited for it? Let us know all of your thoughts. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest DC news, rumors, or leaks. You can catch us on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and Snapchat. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.